Well, we discussed it yesterday on episode 17 of Rolo's Rants, but this morning we have confirmation that Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi has died in a helicopter crash in the mountainous regions of Iran. What will this mean? Could there be a potential for civil war in Iran, more destabilization in the Middle East, and how will this affect the greater conflict between Israel and Gaza? Let's read the news and see if we can find out more. From the Daily Mail, will Iranian president's death trigger civil war? Helicopter crash is a huge blow to the regime and will spur, quote, rebellious use into action, end quote, says resistance group. The death of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi is in a disastrous helicopter crash yesterday could trigger a crisis in the country and spur those who detest the regime into action, the leader of a resistance group has claimed. Maryam Rajavi, president-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, NCRI, described the crash in Iran's northwest that killed Raisi, his foreign minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian, and 7 others as an irreparable blow to the country's mullahs. Quote, this represents a monumental and irreparable strategic blow to the mullah's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and the entire regime, notorious for its executions and massacres, end quote, Rajavi said. It will trigger a series of repercussions and crises within the theocratic tyranny, which will spur rebellious use into action. The curse of mothers and those seeking justice for the executed, along with the damnation of the Iranian people and history, mark the legacy of Ebrahim Raisi, the notorious perpetrator of the 1988 massacre of political prisoners, end quote. Created in 1981, just 2 years after the overthrow of Iran's Shah and the beginning of the Islamic Republic, the NCRI has long been a major opponent of former Supreme Leader Ruhollah Khamenei and incumbent Ali Khamenei. Billing itself as the democratic alternative, the group calls for the overthrow of the religious dictatorship and the inhumane regime of Iran's theocratic leaders. The group is banned in Iran and has been ruthlessly persecuted, but enjoys significant support from the Iranian diaspora worldwide. Rajavi's declaration that the death of Raisi could motivate those harboring anti-regime sentiments to rebel against the mullahs comes as Israeli officials sought to dispel theories Tel Aviv could have been behind the crash that killed Raisi. And as you can see in some of these photos and diagrams here of the terrain in which the helicopter was lost, the president had been visiting a dam that was a joint construction effort by the Azerbaijani government and Iranian governments. And on his way back, he and 8 others died in this crash. We discussed a little bit yesterday before we had confirmation what some of the potential repercussions could be, possibly some of the causes. It does seem that bad weather was the cause, but that has not stopped the internet from lighting up with conspiracy theories about potential involvement by the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad or the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States. And really, it seems like the world is holding its collective breath at this moment to see how Iran comes out of this and what the greater consequences will be throughout the Middle East. Iran has obviously been a massive state sponsor of terror and proxy groups throughout the Middle Eastern region, providing weapons to the Houthis, Hezbollah, and we're certain Hamas as well, and launching retaliatory strikes for their consulate attack by the Israelis several weeks ago. Here we can see some photos of the crash site, and you can just see it's a total loss. It really reminds me of the Kobe Bryant tragedy, with the helicopter flying into a fog bank in the mountains. And it's pretty clear that there's nobody that could have survived this. Raisi, 63, was confirmed dead by Iranian media early this morning, along with Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian, Governor of Eastern Azerbaijan Province Malik Ramadi, and Tabriz's Friday prayer Imam Mohammed Ali al-Hashem. 2 pilots and 3 other Iranian officials and security guards also perished in the crash in the mountainous northwest of the country. Drone footage from Iranian and Turkish news agencies revealed the helicopter had smashed apart on landing, while clips shared by the Iranian Red Crescent showed solemn rescuers carrying corpses on covered stretchers out of the forest surrounding the crash site. The incident sparked a wave of speculation as to the cause of the crash, with many theorists pointing the finger at Israel. The nation is at war with Tehran-backed Hamas in Gaza, and tensions boiled over in April when Israel and Iran exchanged rounds of direct drone and missile strikes. Though Israel has not released an official statement, officials who requested anonymity battled away accusations Tel Aviv was behind the crash, telling Reuters it wasn't us. Iran is yet to provide any details surrounding the crash, nor has it offered an explanation besides a simple statement on the poor weather conditions. But Iranian aircraft, particularly Western-supplied models such as the U.S.-made Bell 212 helicopter carrying Raisi, are notoriously unsafe and in a state of disrepair, as the Islamic Republic has long been subject to Western sanctions that prevent access to desperately needed spare parts. It's not known when Raisi's helicopter was manufactured, but the Bell 212 has been in service use with governments around the world for more than 50 years, first entering service in the early 70s. We can see more photos here of some of the recovery operations. You can see the weather and some of the mountainous regions. You know, anytime that you see fog banks like this or mountainous terrain, there's going to be updrafts. There will be unknown, air currents and the like that can really affect rotor aircraft much more than fixed wing aircraft. Supposedly there were 2 other helicopters in this convoy as well. We don't really have any word on what their status is. Presumably those 2 were fine, but as the days go by, I'm sure that more information will be released. Iran's government held an urgent meeting this morning with Raisi's chair left vacant and covered in a black sash. According to the Islamic Republic's constitution, a new presidential election will need to be called within 50 days. But Raisi's death is sure to trigger a power struggle with a variety of ambitious candidates now set to vie for power. Images circulated on social media showed Iranian citizens taking to the streets in mourning in the hours following the announcement of the president's death, and Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has declared that the nation will observe 5 days of mourning. Raisi, who became president of Iran in 2021, was widely seen as a vassal for the regime and a yes man to the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. He stormed to the presidency with a huge majority following the 2021 elections, but less than half of Iran's electorate turned out to vote, with many more moderate candidates were barred from running. As a young student at a religious seminary in the holy city of Qom, Raisi took part in protests against the Western-backed Shah in the 1979 revolution. His contacts with religious leaders in Qom made him a trusted figure in the judiciary, and he became Iran's deputy prosecutor, aged just 25. Raisi quickly worked his way to the top, and in doing so earned himself the moniker the Butcher of Tehran. As deputy prosecutor and subsequently chief prosecutor, Raisi stood on the so-called Death Committee, a group of 4 judges who presided over tribunals in 1988 that were assembled to retry the regime's political prisoners. Thousands of these prisoners were ruthlessly executed and dumped in unmarked graves. The exact number of deaths is not known, but rights groups estimate roughly 5,000 people were killed following Raisi's brutal judgment. Many of these prisoners were members of the People's Mujahideen of Iran, PMOI, a group which initially supported the overthrow of Iran's Shah and the creation of the Islamic Republic, but quickly became an enemy of Khomeini as they believed the religious clerics should not run the country. Abdul Hassan Banasidir, a member of the PMOI, was also one of the founders of the NCRI that now promotes itself as a viable democratic alternative to the regime. Not only was Raisi loyal to the Republic and its supreme leader, Ruhollah Khomeini, but throughout the 1980s, he had developed a close relationship to the then president of Iran, Ali Khamenei. Khamenei went on to become Iran's supreme leader following the death of Khomeini in 1989 and is undoubtedly responsible for charging Raisi's path to the presidency in 2021. Following Raisi's election, his hardline position became yet more evident. In 2022, he ordered a tighter enforcement of Iran's hijab and chastity law, restricting women's dress and behavior. It was under these orders that 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was detained in September 2022 by Iran's morality police for wearing an improper hijab and died 3 days later in the hospital, sparking unrest. The resulting months of nationwide protest presented one of the gravest challenges to Iran's clerical rulers since the 1979 revolution. Hundreds of people were killed, according to rights groups, including dozens of security personnel who were part of a fierce crackdown on the protesters. Acts of chaos are unacceptable, the president insisted. And here we can see some photos of those protests and some of the mourners of President Raisi. For now, following Raisi's death this weekend, Iran's first vice president, Mohammad Mokber, will now assume the role of interim president. He will lead a temporary government alongside the speaker of Iran's parliament, Mohammad Bakr Qualibaf, and the head of the judiciary, Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei. Qualibaf, who campaigned for the Iranian presidency as early as 2005, is expected to be one of the candidates pushing hard to succeed Raisi. Rescue teams fought blizzards and difficult terrain through the night to reach the wreckage of Raisi's chopper in East Azerbaijan province in the early hours this morning, but their efforts were impeded by snow and fog. The men were on board one of 3 helicopters traveling in a convoy over remote mountainous terrain cloaked in heavy fog when the aircraft went down. Hours prior to the crash, Raisi was seen in an eerie video staring out of the window of the aircraft. Some of the president's onboard entourage were reportedly able to communicate with rescue teams after the crash, raising hopes that the incident could have ended without casualties, according to Iranian news agency Tasnim. But early this morning, Turkish authorities released what they described as drone footage showing what appeared to be a fire in the wilderness that they suspected to be wreckage of the helicopter. The coordinates listed in the footage put the fire some 12 miles south of the Azerbaijan-Iranian border on the side of a steep mountain in the Aras-Baran forest. Approximately 73 teams plus detector dogs were involved in rescue efforts per Iran's Red Crescent. Russia, a close ally of Iran, also sent a 50-man specialist mountain rescue team to assist the search, as you can see here in more photos. We know that Russia and Iran have been close allies, with Iran providing weapons in Russia's current war with Ukraine. As the days go by, we will get more and more details about this and what some of the repercussions are. Please subscribe to this channel and be sure to check out the first episode of Rolo's Rants, which is episode 18, this Sunday, May 26th at 7:30. And stay tuned for more information on this channel as it comes by. Thank you, and I'm Rolo the Puerto Rican Pistolero, and we'll catch you on the next one.